Hello friends. What happens when the most intense sign of the zodiac meets one of the most driven animals in the Chinese zodiac? You get a person who's impossible to ignore. Welcome to the world of the Scorpio, born in the year of the horse, a soul that is as magnetic as they are mysterious, as passionate as they are unpredictable. This is not your average personality profile. This is a deep dive into a creature of fire and water, shadow and sunlight. Buckle up. Love, the wild flame that burns forever. When a Scorpio born in the year of the horse falls in love, it's not just romance, it's a collision of galaxies, a dance of opposites charged by magnetic force. There's no halfway with them. From the very beginning, their love feels fated, written in stars they don't even fully trust. Love hits them like lightning, seizing every corner of their inner world, mind, heart, and soul. They might pretend to play it cool, but their energy betrays them. The eyes? Piercing. The presence? Electric. The intensity? Off the charts. They court with mystery and boldness all at once. One moment, they're sending cryptic, poetic texts that could double as song lyrics. The next, they're whisking you away to a quiet cabin in the woods with no Wi-Fi and all the wine. They can be old-school romantics, leaving handwritten notes, making late-night calls just to hear your voice, but always with a twist. You never quite know what's next with them, and that's part of their allure. Just when you think you've got them figured out, they show you a whole new layer. This unpredictability, though, isn't just about drama. It comes from their two ruling forces, Scorpio's deep emotional intensity and the horse's instinctual need for motion and change. Scorpio wants to merge, to become one with their lover, to feel like they've dissolved all walls between two people. The horse, on the other hand, wants to run, to breathe freely, to chase something just beyond the horizon. These two energies live inside them like wild animals trying to share the same cage. That's why, in love, they can be both clingy and distant, warm and cold, overjoyed and afraid, sometimes all within the same hour. And yes, they're selective. They might date around, flirt, and explore, but their heart doesn't give itself away easily. If they're diving in emotionally, it means they've done the math, felt the chemistry, read between the lines, and sensed something real. If they haven't, well, then it's just a thrill ride, a beautiful distraction. This detachment is often self-protection. Scorpio horses have likely been hurt before, cut deep by betrayal, abandonment, or loss. Those experiences never fully leave them. They carry emotional scars like medals, reminders of what happens when you trust the wrong person. But once they feel safe, once they're sure you're the one, they love fearlessly, with a fire that doesn't dim, even when things get hard. In relationships, they want the full package: emotional depth, mental stimulation, spiritual resonance, and physical chemistry. They don't just want a partner, they want a teammate, co-conspirator, and muse. They want someone who gets their moods, respects their complexity, and doesn't get scared when they retreat into themselves for a few days. Someone who knows how to pull them out, or better yet, sit with them in the silence. But it's not easy. The person who loves a Scorpio horse must have emotional endurance. They must be open-hearted but not naive, steady but not boring, passionate but not overwhelming. The balance is delicate. Cling too tightly, and they'll bolt. Stay too detached, and they'll feel abandoned. They need someone who understands paradoxes, someone who knows that freedom and loyalty aren't opposites, but two halves of the same coin. When they find that rare connection, though, someone who sees them fully and stays anyway, they become unshakably loyal. They'll fight for the relationship with everything they've got. They'll sacrifice, adapt, and build a love story worth telling. They don't give up on people easily once they've let them into the inner circle. It's not just love for them, it's legacy. Ideal partners are those who bring empathy without weakness, who are strong enough to hold space for this emotional intensity, yet self-aware enough not to get pulled into unnecessary drama. Water signs like Pisces or Cancer can swim in their emotional depths, while an earth sign like Virgo brings calming structure. Combine that with compatible Chinese zodiac signs like the goat nurturing, the tiger brave and magnetic, or the dog loyal and grounded, and you get an ideal match. Someone who understands that loving a Scorpio horse isn't easy, but it's worth every single second. Sex. Sensual fireworks with a dash of mystery. Sex with a Scorpio horse isn't just an act, It's an experience, a psychological expedition, and in many ways, a test of your soul's resonance with theirs. This is not someone who approaches intimacy with routine or indifference. They crave connection that burns at every level: emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and physical. Their approach to sex is as layered and intense as their personality, driven by Scorpio's emotional undercurrent and the horse's untamed energy. When these two forces combine, what you get is a lover who is at once deeply magnetic and electrifying, constantly pulling you into a world that feels both dangerous and delicious. At first glance, their sexuality can seem confident, even dominant. But that's just the surface. Beneath their boldness is a complex interplay of vulnerability, desire, and control. Scorpio brings the element of mystery. They don't reveal everything all at once. There's always something more, something deeper to discover. Meanwhile, the horse adds a flair for adventure and spontaneity. They're rarely conventional. They'll make love in a 5-star hotel or in the backseat of a car with equal passion. What matters is the energy, the connection, the thrill of being seen and desired in that moment. For the Scorpio horse, sex is a sacred language. It's the one place where words fall away and truth is communicated through touch, breath, movement, and energy. They're incredibly tuned into their partner's needs and reactions. It's as if they're reading you without you ever having to say a word. Their sensual intelligence is unmatched. They notice the way your breath catches, the subtle shifts in your mood, the way your hand tightens or relaxes. And they respond with a kind of instinctual mastery that feels effortless but is entirely intentional. That said, trust is everything. They will never give their full sexual self to someone they don't respect. If they sense shallowness or emotional immaturity, they'll shut down, retreat, and detach. Physical attraction alone isn't enough. They need depth. They need to feel that you understand what sex means to them. A merging of souls, a transaction of energy, a deeply personal act that has the power to transform. They are not interested in one-night stands unless they're in a period of emotional withdrawal or disillusionment, and even then, it leaves them feeling hollow. When trust is established, however, they become fearlessly experimental. Their Scorpio side thrives on intensity and emotion, while the horse year craves novelty, playfulness, and unpredictability. That means they're open to exploring fantasies, trying new things, and pushing boundaries, but never for shock value. For them, exploration must be fueled by intention and intimacy, not just thrill-seeking. The act of discovering a new layer of desire is part of the relationship's emotional evolution. Their ideal lover is open-minded, confident, emotionally present, and not afraid to be fully seen. Scorpio horses respect partners who can take the lead when needed, who aren't intimidated by their heat, and who give as much as they receive. Equality in the bedroom is non-negotiable, not in a mechanical sense, but in energetic reciprocity. They want to feel your hunger for them, not your compliance. They don't respond to performance or pretense. They want rawness, truth, that moment when your walls drop and your soul steps forward. Don't mistake their intensity for instability. While their passion can sometimes come off as overwhelming, at their best, Scorpio horses create deeply healing sexual connections. They have the ability to make their partner feel completely accepted, fully cherished, and utterly desired, body and soul. And once they've bonded with someone in that way, they remember it forever. It becomes part of their internal mythology. But disrespect their vulnerability, mock their depth, or reduce sex to something shallow, and you'll find out just how quickly the Scorpio horse can vanish. They have no interest in convincing someone of their worth. If you can't meet them on their level, or if you try to control or devalue them, they'll disappear like smoke. No drama, no second chances. They just leave. In the end, being lovers with a Scorpio horse is like lighting a candle in a dark room and watching it explode into a wildfire. It's not for the faint of heart. But if you can handle the heat, if you can meet them with presence, passion, and purpose, you'll discover a love that redefines what intimacy truly means. Marriage, a storm worth weathering. For a Scorpio horse, marriage isn't about tradition, paperwork, or social expectations. It's a soul contract. When they commit, it's not because they feel they should. It's because every fiber of their being tells them they must. Marriage, to them, is a deeply spiritual and emotional bond, a sacred partnership forged not just in love, but in mutual respect, shared vision, and unwavering loyalty. They take the concept of forever seriously. And though they know love can be messy, unpredictable, and even painful, they approach it with a sort of emotional bravery that's rare and fierce. When they say, "I do," they're not just saying yes to a person, they're saying yes to the life they'll build together, through every storm and season. That said, they don't give their vow lightly. Scorpio horses are cautiously romantic, meaning they might fantasize about soulmates and forever after, but they're also acutely aware of the risks involved. They've likely had experiences that made them wary of betrayal or emotional abandonment. Trust, for them, is something earned over time, not assumed by default. This makes them slow to commit. They may test the relationship, retreat suddenly, or question everything even when things seem perfect. This isn't flakiness, it's fear. Fear of choosing wrong. Fear of being trapped. Fear of giving their all to someone who doesn't truly see them. And yet, once they decide you're the one, once that elusive switch flips, they commit with totality. They become the type of partner who shows up in the hardest moments. When the car breaks down, when you're sick at 2 a.m., when you've lost faith in yourself and need someone to remind you who you are. Their love isn't loud, but it's unshakably solid. They'll defend your name when you're not in the room. They'll build a home that feels like both a fortress and a haven. Marriage, for them, becomes a joint empire, not just a romantic nest. They want shared goals, spiritual growth, and constant evolution as a couple. But here's where it gets complex. The horse element makes them restless and freedom-loving. They have a wild side that refuses to be tamed, even by love. They need their own space, interests, and time to roam, mentally, creatively, and sometimes even physically. A partner who clings, controls, or micromanages them will activate their deepest fears. They can't stand feeling caged or emotionally suffocated. And when they feel trapped, they don't fight, they flee. That's their nature. They gallop before they collapse. They'll walk out the door if they sense they've lost themselves inside the relationship. Therefore, their ideal marital partner must be secure, self-sufficient, emotionally intelligent, and flexible. This person must understand that love isn't about possession, it's about alignment. They'll need to hold the Scorpio horse loosely, yet with love. Give them freedom, and they'll choose you every time. Try to tether them too tightly, and they'll tear the rope and disappear into the wind. There's also an emotional intensity that runs deep in their married life. Scorpio horses don't love. They either give everything or nothing. This can lead to passionate highs and heavy lows, especially if conflict isn't handled with care. They can hold grudges, become silent and withdrawn, or sting with harsh words if they feel disrespected. But they are also incredibly capable of transformation. They'll apologize when they're wrong, reinvent themselves for the relationship, and work through deep issues if they believe the bond is worth saving. Their resilience is one of their greatest marital strengths. Protectiveness is another defining trait. Once married, they become fiercely loyal guardians of their partner and family. They'll go to extreme lengths to ensure their loved ones are safe, secure, and thriving. Whether it's working tirelessly to provide, defending their spouse's dreams, or shielding their family from external negativity, they operate with a deep sense of responsibility. To them, marriage is not just about emotional fulfillment, it's a duty of honor. But if that sacred trust is broken, through infidelity, dishonesty, or cold emotional neglect, it can shatter their world. Scorpio horses do not forgive easily when it comes to betrayal. And when they decide to leave, they usually do it permanently and without a backward glance. No pleading, no final conversation, just silence and a locked door. That's how deep the wound cuts. Ultimately, marrying a Scorpio horse is like marrying a force of nature. The relationship will require strength, patience, and a deep understanding of complexity. But for those who are up to the challenge, the reward is a partner who loves without limit, stands unshakably in your corner, and builds a life of depth and purpose beside you. It may not be calm, but it will be real. And that's all they ever truly wanted. Friendship. Ride or die. Literally. The Scorpio horse is the kind of friend who redefines what loyalty actually means. This is not the person who casually checks in once a month or sends a "happy birthday" text with an emoji and no punctuation. This is the friend who remembers how you like your coffee, who notices when your voice sounds off, who shows up uninvited but exactly when you need them. They feel friendship in their bones, viscerally, protectively, and unconditionally, once they've decided you're worth it. And that's no small statement, because they don't let just anyone into their inner world. But if you're in, you're in. And you'll feel it in every action, every late-night phone call, every fierce defense of your character when you're not even in the room. They are ride or die in the truest sense of the phrase. They'll drive across state lines to bail you out of a terrible breakup. They'll sit next to you in silence if you're grieving. They'll help you move apartments in the rain and then insist on cooking you dinner. But their version of friendship isn't about grand displays, it's about constancy. They're consistent, reliable, and aware of the little things that make people feel valued. Scorpio brings that deep emotional intuition, and horse adds unstoppable energy, which means you get a friend who is both emotionally attuned and actively helpful. They don't just say they care, they show it, time and time again. They also hate fake connections. The Scorpio horse absolutely cannot stand shallow, surface-level friendships. They won't tolerate gossip-filled brunches or networking disguised as friendship. If they're investing in you, it means they're interested in your soul, not your social media feed. They'd much rather have a 2-hour conversation about your existential crisis than smile politely while discussing weekend plans. One-on-one, they shine. In group settings, they're often observing, reading everyone's energy, deciding whether this group is worth their presence. When they find people who get them, the weird, brilliant, brooding, hilarious parts, they lock in for life. Surprisingly, once they're comfortable, Scorpio horses are very fun to be around. Their dark, intense vibe softens into a dry, sarcastic wit. They'll crack you up with deadpan one-liners, challenge you to spontaneous road trips, or suggest a midnight hike under a full moon, because why not? They bring a sense of wild adventure laced with emotional security, which is rare. You'll never be bored with them. One day they're talking about ancient civilizations, and the next they're helping you prank your boss with plausible deniability, of course. Their friendship style is deep, slightly chaotic, but always genuine. But let's talk about the flip side, betrayal. There is no second chance when it comes to breaking a Scorpio horse's trust. They give everything to people they consider friends: time, energy, secrets, loyalty. If you lie to them, gossip about them, or fail them at a crucial moment, their forgiveness will be ice cold and non-existent. They won't scream. They won't cause a scene. They'll just disappear. And once they're gone, they don't come back. That's not pettiness, it's protection. They've been hurt before, deeply, and once they realize someone doesn't value their loyalty, they cut the cord with surgical precision. Even subtler forms of betrayal, like emotional distance, inconsistency, or using them as a convenience, can sour the relationship. They need to feel like friendship is a mutual investment, not just a one-way street. If they sense they're being taken for granted, they won't say anything right away, but they'll start pulling away quietly. And once the emotional door closes, you won't find it again. Their best friendships tend to form with people who are grounded, emotionally intelligent, and slightly unconventional. They thrive with individuals who are comfortable with silence, complexity, and emotional depth. Water signs like Cancer and Pisces offer shared sensitivity. Earth signs like Virgo and Capricorn give stability. Fellow horses or snakes in the Chinese zodiac can match their drive and understanding of personal boundaries. To be friends with a Scorpio horse is to be deeply known and fiercely protected. They will hold your secrets, hype up your dreams, and call you out when you're being self-destructive, but only because they believe in you more than you believe in yourself. Their loyalty is not passive, it's active, passionate, and sometimes overwhelming in the best way possible. They're not perfect, and they won't pretend to be. But they are real, which, in a world full of shallow connections, makes their friendship an absolute treasure. Business. Born to lead, destined to dominate. In the world of business, the Scorpio horse doesn't walk into a room to blend in, they walk in to shift the energy. They don't just chase career success, they hunt it down with laser focus, emotional depth, and fearless intuition. These individuals aren't motivated by titles, perks, or applause. They're driven by purpose, and they approach their professional life as if it were a grand mission. They don't simply work, they strategize, envision, and execute. They view business through a psychological lens, always thinking 3 moves ahead, watching patterns, understanding motives. They're not interested in being another name on the payroll. They're here to transform the system, or build a new one from scratch. The fusion of Scorpio's emotional intelligence and the horse's unrelenting momentum makes for a powerhouse personality in any industry. Scorpio gives them intensity, analytical depth, and sharp focus. The horse adds ambition, resilience, and an unshakable desire for autonomy. These are people who hate being boxed in. They need room to innovate, question the rules, and pursue big visions without being slowed down by red tape or small-minded supervisors. Micromanagement is their kryptonite. If they feel restricted or patronized, they'll either quit on the spot or quietly begin planning their exit, usually to launch something of their own that outshines the very place that held them back. When Scorpio horses are doing what they love, their work ethic is unmatched. They can put in 14-hour days without blinking. They obsess over details most people miss. They don't need constant praise, they thrive on inner validation. If a project aligns with their values or passions, they'll go all in. Whether it's launching a startup, writing a book, creating a film, or developing a new social initiative, they take ownership of the mission. They aren't looking for fast wins, they're building legacy. They excel in careers that allow them to lead, explore, analyze, or create. Ideal paths include entrepreneurship, psychology, film direction, investigative journalism, tech innovation, medical fields, high-stakes negotiation, crisis management, or strategy-based consulting. Scorpio gives them the depth to handle complexity and confrontation, while the horse gives them the stamina and confidence to lead through chaos. They don't crumble under pressure, they expand in it. When others panic, they plan. When others stall, they sprint. High-risk situations don't scare them, in fact, they often bring out the best in them. But make no mistake, while they're daring, they're not reckless. They might take risks, but every move is calculated. They trust their gut, yes, but their gut is unusually well-informed. Scorpio's gift for reading people and the horse's innate instincts combine into a kind of business X-ray vision. They can walk into a meeting and immediately sense hidden agendas, unspoken tensions, and who's bluffing. Manipulation doesn't work on them. In fact, trying to deceive a Scorpio horse is like poking a sleeping volcano. They see right through flattery, corporate politics, and backhanded compliments. And they never forget who tried to play games. Co-workers and peers often admire them, but also fear them just a little. There's something about a Scorpio horse's presence that feels commanding, even when they're not saying much. It's in their body language, their piercing eyes, their unwillingness to conform. They don't gossip, they don't suck up, and they don't tolerate mediocrity. They lead by example, not by hierarchy. When they speak, people listen, not because they shout, but because they speak with clarity and confidence. They don't get involved in petty politics, but they somehow always come out ahead. Why? Because while others are arguing in the open, the Scorpio horse is already 3 steps into the next phase of the game. Their leadership style is intense but empowering. They expect a lot, because they give a lot. They don't micromanage, but they will push their team to evolve, to do better, to rise. They're the type of boss who'll inspire fierce loyalty from those who can keep up, and quiet resentment from those who can't. But the thing is, they're not here to be liked. They're here to build something real. Something that lasts. And if you're working with them, you'd better be ready to meet that same standard, or get left behind. Ultimately, Scorpio horses are born to carve their own path in the business world. They don't fit into boxes, they burn them down. Whether they're running a company or operating behind the scenes, their influence is undeniable. They command attention without asking for it. And they turn vision into victory, not because it's easy, but because they wouldn't settle for anything less. The dark side. Shadows in the saddle. Every mythic figure carries a shadow, and the Scorpio horse is no exception. For all their brilliance, passion, and leadership, they are also deeply familiar with their own darkness, sometimes more than they'd ever admit. Their greatest internal struggle revolves around control. When they feel emotionally unsafe, betrayed, or cornered, their instinct isn't to cry or beg, it's to retreat, analyze, and plot. Their silence becomes armor. Their intellect becomes a weapon. And their emotional wounds? They bury them deep, only to resurface later, sharper and more dangerous. You might never see their emotional spiral happening in real time. But make no mistake, it's happening behind closed doors, often in complete solitude, where they do their most destructive thinking. The dark side of their control often manifests as coldness and calculation. This isn't impulsive rage, it's strategic withdrawal. They may suddenly ghost people, cut ties without explanation, or begin subtly manipulating outcomes in their favor. To outsiders, it can seem ruthless. To them, it feels like survival. Scorpio horses are extremely sensitive beneath their strength, and when they feel emotionally betrayed, even by minor slights, they can spiral into a kind of emotional vengeance mode. They won't yell. They won't plead. They'll just remove you from their kingdom, and you may never even understand how or when you lost your place. Their other major weakness lies in jealousy and secrecy. Scorpio horses often carry a deep-rooted fear of being replaced, outshined, or emotionally abandoned. This makes them incredibly protective, and sometimes possessive, of the people they love. But instead of expressing their fears directly, they tend to act in shadow. They test people. They play subtle mind games. They hide their vulnerability under sarcasm or indifference. They may even try to provoke jealousy themselves, just to see how much you care. All of this stems from a primal terror of rejection, a belief that love is conditional, and that they must always be ready to defend their heart, even from those closest to them. This pattern extends into their professional life as well. Their ambition, while admirable, can tip into obsession. They might overwork themselves to the point of burnout. They might see competition where there is none. Their pursuit of excellence can make them hypercritical, not just of others, but of themselves. They set impossibly high standards and often punish themselves for failing to meet them. In their darkest moments, they can become paranoid, suspicious, and consumed by perfectionism. If left unchecked, this can lead to isolation. They start believing no one understands them, no one can match them, and no one is safe to trust. Their natural charm, another one of their greatest gifts, also has a shadow. When they're hurt, insecure, or emotionally unstable, that charm can be used to manipulate, control, or gaslight. They know how to say the right thing, how to read a room, how to push just the right emotional button. And if they're in survival mode, they may use that charm not to connect, but to win. This is where their Scorpio side operates from a place of power dynamics. Everything becomes a test, a challenge, a game of psychological chess. And while they may win these emotional battles, they often lose what matters most: authentic connection, peace, and trust. Then comes the independence trap. Scorpio horses pride themselves on being strong, self-sufficient, and emotionally autonomous. But when taken to an extreme, this becomes emotional isolation. They stop asking for help. They stop showing weakness. They stop letting people in. The world becomes black and white. I can only trust myself, or worse, I don't need anyone. This belief can be incredibly lonely, and ironically, it's the very thing that keeps them from experiencing the deep intimacy they so deeply crave. They shut the door on others not because they don't care, but because they care too much, and fear being hurt again. But here's the powerful truth about the Scorpio horse: they evolve. More than almost any other sign-animal combination, they have the capacity to confront their darkness, analyze it, and alchemize it into strength. They're not afraid to go deep, even when the truth is uncomfortable. They'll spend sleepless nights journaling, researching, unraveling their own patterns. Therapy, self-development, spiritual work, all of it is on the table. And when they do the inner work, they transform. Their control becomes clarity. Their secrecy becomes wisdom. Their ambition becomes legacy. Because if there's one thing Scorpio horses do better than anyone else, it's rise. Time and time again, they will burn it all down: ego, identity, relationships, careers, and start over, more powerful and self-aware than before. Their shadow isn't a flaw. It's part of their design. And when they learn to ride it, not run from it, they become unstoppable. They don't just survive the dark chapters. They rewrite the ending. Life goals: the relentless quest for depth. At the core of the Scorpio horse's existence is a burning, unshakable drive for meaning. They are not content with surface-level living. They don't do average. They aren't built for following templates or chasing status symbols just to impress others. What they want, what they need, is a life that feels real, that stirs their soul, challenges their mind, and impacts the world around them. They aren't satisfied with ticking boxes or walking the pre-approved path. Their internal compass points toward depth, truth, intensity, and evolution. Everything else is just noise. This pursuit of meaning shows up early. Even as children or teens, Scorpio horses often feel like they're different. While their peers are focused on popularity or shallow wins, they're questioning life, exploring darker truths, or dreaming of a future that feels much larger than their circumstances. They might be misunderstood or even isolated at times, but they never stop searching. Searching for something that resonates on a soul level, a cause, a creative outlet, a mission. Once they find that thing, it becomes the engine of their life. And unlike others who burn out quickly, Scorpio horses have stamina. They'll keep pushing, learning, building, transforming, for years, even decades, until they reach the depth they're after. Legacy is a key word in their life goals. They don't just want to succeed, they want to leave something behind that will outlive them. Whether it's a groundbreaking business, a revolutionary piece of art, a body of work, a movement, or simply a transformed life they helped guide, they need their presence on Earth to matter. They want to know they made a dent in the universe, even if that dent is quiet, private, or unseen by the masses. It's not about fame, it's about impact. And when they feel aligned with their higher purpose, they become absolutely unstoppable. The Scorpio side brings an emotional and psychological depth that drives them to understand themselves and others on the deepest levels. They want to crack the code of human behavior, dissect their own traumas, and help others do the same. The horse adds energy, ambition, and restlessness, pushing them to take action, lead movements, or build something entirely new from scratch. This combination makes them the kind of people who can go through multiple careers, spiritual paths, or identities, not because they're lost, but because they are constantly evolving, peeling back new layers of truth, and seeking the most authentic version of themselves. Transformation is a major theme in their life. They don't just change, they rebirth. Over and over. It's almost mythological the way they can rise from the ashes of past lives. One year they might be the rebel challenging everything, the next they're a mentor or healer guiding others through their own darkness. And eventually, when the inner work aligns with external action, they emerge as leaders, not the loud, power-hungry kind, but the wise, emotionally intelligent kind that people trust because they've been through it. Their leadership is earned, not inherited. And they lead not from ego, but from experience. Scorpio horses are never stagnant. If their environment doesn't allow growth, they will burn it to the ground. This could mean ending long-term relationships, leaving high-paying jobs, or walking away from the comfort of familiarity, all because something inside them demands change. Their intuition acts like a spiritual GPS, constantly steering them toward expansion, even if it comes with risk. They aren't afraid of pain if it leads to transformation. They aren't afraid of chaos if it clears the path to something real. In fact, many of them don't just endure change, they initiate it. Success, for the Scorpio horse, must feel personal. It must align with their values. They're not chasing empty wins or public approval. They measure success by fulfillment, authenticity, emotional depth, and the quality of their connections. They want their inner world to match their outer world, and when that harmony is achieved, they become powerful agents of change, not just for themselves, but for others. They inspire transformation by being the transformation. Even their relationships are guided by purpose. They don't casually attach themselves to people. They're drawn to those who challenge them, mirror their wounds, and catalyze their evolution. And while this can lead to intense, sometimes turbulent relationships, it also means they're constantly growing emotionally, spiritually, and mentally through the people they love. Every connection has to mean something, or they'll walk away. Ultimately, Scorpio horses are not here to merely survive, accumulate, or coast. They're here to evolve, over and over again. They'll change careers, identities, belief systems, and even entire lifestyles to stay aligned with their soul's mission. Life is not a straight road for them, it's a spiral staircase leading to deeper and deeper truths. And as they climb, they don't just elevate themselves. They pull others up with them. Because for all their intensity, what they want most isn't power, money, or fame, it's meaning, purpose, and the courage to live fully awake. Final thoughts. A Scorpio born in the year of the horse is one of those rare individuals who seem like they were made from opposites: fury and finesse, solitude and magnetism, wild independence and fierce loyalty, all packed into one unforgettable soul. They are a living contradiction, a walking storm wrapped in silence, with eyes that seem to hold 1,000 stories and a presence that commands attention without ever asking for it. You don't just meet a Scorpio horse, you encounter them, like a force of nature. And once they've entered your world, you'll never quite see things the same way again. They're not here to make life easy, for themselves or anyone else. They're here to make it real. They don't skim the surface, they dive to the bottom of things. Their love is intense, their loyalty is unshakable, and their vision is always locked on something bigger than the moment. They don't crave comfort zones. They burn them down. They'll question you, mirror you, and sometimes frustrate you, but they'll also inspire you to grow, to rise, to become more of who you really are. That's their gift. They force transformation not by force, but by presence. By simply being who they are, they challenge the people around them to step up. And yet, behind all that fire and thunder, there's depth, tenderness, and vulnerability. A longing to be seen, to be understood, to find a safe place to rest. They may not show it easily, but it's there. Always there. Underneath the independence lies a heart that's aching for connection, but one that refuses to settle for anything less than soul deep. To love a Scorpio horse is to enter a contract with raw truth. It won't always be smooth, but it will always be real. If they choose you, truly choose you, you'll never have to question their devotion again. If you see yourself in this portrait, know that you're not too much. You're just intensely alive in a world that often prefers watered-down versions of people. You're not too sensitive, too driven, too private, too fierce. You're exactly what you were built to be: a catalyst, a creator, a seeker of what matters most. Embrace it, let it shape you, and trust that your intensity isn't a flaw, it's a fire meant to illuminate, not just consume. If you recognize someone you love in this description, take the time to understand the complexity. Give them space, but also consistency. Challenge them, but don't try to control them. Let them run, but be the place they want to return to. Because if you're lucky enough to earn their loyalty, their friendship, their love, you've found something rare, something unshakable, something most people spend lifetimes searching for. So share this with someone who needs to see it, someone who's trying to understand themselves, or someone trying to understand you. And if this kind of deep dive into human nature speaks to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the rest of our work. We're just getting started, and the next chapter might be the one that finally puts it all into perspective. Until then, keep digging deeper. The truth's always worth it. See you in the next one.